My name is Teresa Hodge, and I am the co-founder and the CEO of R3 Score. And at R3 Score, we connect people with criminal histories to the credit they need. But before I tell you about that, I have to take you back a little bit so that you understand how R3 Score came to be. Ooh. Ooh. 7 years ago today, I was in prison. I had spent 4 years and 4 months in prison, and I had 4 months to go. I was excited about my future. Imagine sitting in prison, being excited about your future. I didn't know what to expect, but what I knew was a brighter day lied ahead for me. I was fortunate. I had a good family, a good support system, who were there for me the entire time that I was in prison. I also had good skill sets, and I knew that I would be able to come home and repurpose my life. I was fortunate to have a friend who, while I was in prison, he offered me a job, and that job was to be a paralegal. And a few days after I left prison, I was able to walk into a law firm and be a paralegal for about a year and a half. But I left prison brokenhearted. I left brokenhearted because of the women who I met while I was in prison. I wasn't sure if they too would be able to get their lives back on track. When you sit in a federal prison camp, people go to prison, they come home, and then often they cycle right back through. That happened over and over and over again. And I really couldn't understand why so many women were coming back to prison. Because what I had already known was prison life was no way of living. And when I talked with those women, what I heard was it was just difficult to connect back to family, to community, to jobs and opportunities. What I knew then was we needed new tools, we needed new ways of inclusion. A year after I came home from prison, my daughter and I, we co-founded Mission Launch, and we began working on tech inclusion for individuals who had arrest or conviction records. About 2 years ago, we became a trusted voice on the topic of tech inclusion and unlocking capital for individuals with convictions, to the point where people started showing up. We had two different scenarios. We had financial institutions that were coming to us saying, can you help us understand this population? One story. A community financial development company in DC came to us and said, can you help us begin to look at this population? They wanted to be intentional about providing financial products to individuals who had arrest or conviction records. The problem was they didn't understand the population. They didn't understand the population. They didn't know where they didn't think they knew how to find them. But then as time went on, I realized they wanted me to de-risk the individuals for them. They wanted me to determine if they had the capacity to make a loan. In this case, they wanted to give a loan between $1,000 to $3,000 for a person. They wanted them to take some credit courses, and they wanted to be able to report that information to help them build their credit. In the end, I felt like they also wanted me to collect the debt in the event the person defaulted, and I really wasn't interested in that. But that conversation began to happen over and over and over again. And then on the flip side of the equation were individuals who had an arrest or conviction record. They too were looking for questions. One of my friends came to me and he told me how he had been home for 17 years from prison. His criminal record was about 20 years old. He had connected with his family and he was ready to take the next step in terms of buying a home. He had improved his credit and he had a good job. When he went to go get pre-qualified, he was qualified because the underwriter just pulled his they pulled his credit report, they looked at his 1099s, his W-2s, and they gave him a preliminary approval. He and his wife both were approved for the loan. But as they found the house and they were ready to take the next steps, his criminal history came into effect. And at that time, he was removed from the application. And they told him that even though he had the higher credit score and the higher income, that he could not be on the loan. That put him and his family in an awful position, and they were no longer able to increase the wealth in their family that they had anticipated. What we've discovered is it's not good enough to have a good credit score if you have a criminal record. You also have to have a score that de-risks your criminal activity, and that is where R3 Score comes in. R3 Score is a software as a service platform. We connect individuals who have criminal records with financial institutions that want to give them a loan. What we know is individuals with a criminal record, they are able to walk into a bank and they can apply for credit, but what they aren't able to do is establish a relationship with their banker. We collect a lot of data. Our data, or our R3 Score, is similar to that of a credit score. Credit scores range often from 300 to 850, and so does R3 Score. We collect information in 3 big buckets. Conduct, we bring in the criminal history. The criminal history is static, we build off of that. Capacity, we tell you who this person is and what they're capable of doing. And then my favorite category is continuity of choice. We look at how an individual is making decisions that move them away from their criminal history and moving them towards the center of society. This is a massive underpenetrated market. You heard the numbers. We believe that we are able to attract 4% of this population over a period of time. That's about 560,000 individuals, and every year we believe that we're going to be able to add somewhere between 35 to 50,000 individuals who are coming home from prison. Our competitors, well, the big one you know. They control pretty much all of our ability to be able to determine whether we are creditworthy or not. Our team, I think we're pretty fantastic. We have over 80 years of professional work experience. We cover we're a baby boomer, a Gen X, a Gen Y, and a true blue millennial. Diversity is our strength. We have a strong advisory team as well. Our big vision is by the year 2030, we're expecting 100 million people to have arrest or conviction records in this country. Our goal is for R3 Score to be the standard, the gold standard of how individuals access opportunity. The marbles represent options, and I think that's what individuals with criminal records need. Options, options, and more options. Thank you very much.